Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to episode number 7 of Real Estate Refresh. I've got an awesome session lined up for you today. We're going to be covering who pays for what expenses when you're buying and selling real estate. And I find this topic very interesting simply because you can't just get a straight answer to that question no matter where you go. In just a second, I'm going to share with you the results of a Google search I did before the show today to highlight what a pain in the neck it is to get a straight answer. Specifically today, we're going to be talking about commission. We're going to be talking about escrow fees. We're going to be talking about title insurance. We're going to be talking about termite work and home warranties. Some of the things some of you guys know about. You probably don't have any idea. My name's Nat Ferguson. I'm the owner of Ferguson Realty. And if you can hear me loud and clear, hit that love button. I see Maureen is showing up. She's giving me the waving hand. I'm getting the clapping hands from Renee. Judy Weiniger's on today, giving me thumbs up. Good to see you, Judy. I got a heart from Renee. If you guys would hit that little heart button and let me know where you're watching from today, that would be great. We'll wait just a second here. It always takes people a minute or two to kind of show up today. And I made a big change today before we kick off the show. I went out and I finally took advice and I got a LED studio light because the light I was working with before was the natural light. It came through my window here, and as we head into fall, the angle of the sun changes, and it was just causing a bunch of weird shadows and stuff like that. So today is my first day using this light. It's so bright, but I hope the picture is showing up a lot better. How does the picture look, you guys? Can you see me a lot better than you have in the past? And can you hear me loud and clear if you just let me know? Hi, Judy. Maureen's giving me the heart. Thank you, Judy, giving me the heart. Well, guys, Real Estate Refresh is a weekly live session really focused on providing actionable real estate information, stuff that just you'd like the answer to, but you can't find it anywhere else. Maureen is watching from Panera Bread by the South Bay Galleria. Thank you for tuning in from all the way over there. Yes and yes. Okay, great. So the lighting looks better. The audio sounds good. Well, again, this week we're going to be diving into the expenses and who pays them. When you're buying and selling real estate, who pays for what? Sellers pay for something, buyers pay for something. Most people have no idea. And it really upsets me that people have to stumble into a transaction as important as buying or selling a home and then feel silly about asking questions on who pays for what. You wouldn't believe how many appointments I go on and that my team has. And the very first question is, well, who pays for the commission? And that's the biggest expense. I do this every day, so I know the answer to the question. And I want you to know the answer to the question too, because that's the one question that you shouldn't have to have rolling around in your head. If you're thinking about selling your house or thinking about buying a house, you should know the answer to that question. So today, again, we're going to be focusing on who pays for what expenses when buying and selling real estate. But as you know, I like to kick off all of my Real Estate Refresh with some stats. I love my stats. So before the show today, I just took off my real estate hat and I put on my, average Joe hat. And I thought if I was considering buying or selling real estate and I needed to answer the question, who pays for what expenses, I would probably just turn to Google. And that's what I did. So before the show, and you could do this, I would encourage you to do this so you can see what a bunch of misinformation is out on the internet. I typed into Google these search terms: understanding real estate expenses. Right? I mean, it seems like a pretty straightforward question. Understanding real estate expenses. Would you care to guess how many results were returned? Type in your guess. How many results did I get when I typed in understanding real estate expenses? I want to see your guesses. And you can cheat if you want. If you want to hop into Google real quick and type in understanding real estate expenses, that's fine with me. What I can tell you, though, as I'm waiting for you to type in your guesses, is that there really isn't a straightforward answer out there. How many results do you think I got, Maureen? How about you, Judy? How many results are people getting when they're typing in understanding real estate expenses? I'll let you type in your answer here. I want to see what you guys think. Okay. I got one guess up. What do you think, Maureen, Judy? How many results? I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. What's up, James? Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for stopping by. So if you're just joining us, today's session is about who pays for what expenses when you're buying or selling a home. And I'm about to give away my first stat. So before the show today, I went onto Google and I typed in this. I typed in the simple search, these search words: understanding real estate expenses. 962,000 results. 962,000 results for somebody who's trying to get a simple question answered: who pays for real estate expenses? So in today's show, we're going to be talking about these 5 expenses and who pays for them. We're going to be talking about commission. We're going to be talking about escrow fees. We're going to be talking about title insurance. We're going to be talking about termite work, and we're going to be talking about home warranty. So the very first expense, and also the biggest expense to consider, is commission. So who pays commission? Who pays the realtors, whether they're representing you as the seller or whether you're being represented as a buyer? We're gonna be talking about exactly how that's divvied up. So let's say you've never bought a home before and you're in the market to buy a home, and you'd like to use a realtor to represent you and guide you through the whole process, right? You don't actually pay anything. When was the last time you could buy something and not have to pay somebody at all? Not up front, but not at all. The commission is paid by the seller. The commission is always paid by the seller. And there's some outlying circumstances to that, but I'm going to focus on really the majority of people who are selling their home and buying their home. The commission is paid by the seller. The commission that's paid by the seller is split between the agent who represents the seller, the listing agent, and then the commission, the other part of the commission, is paid from the seller to the buyer's agent who's representing the buyer. So if you're buying a home, the good news is, guess what? That expense, not on your plate. If you've bought a home and you live there for a period of time and you're considering downsizing or selling and upgrading, well, that expense is now yours to pay this time. I'm not going to dive into negotiating commissions. I'm not going to dive into what are you paying for with the commission. Today I'm just talking about the expenses and who pays for them. So the commission is paid by the seller. So if you're buying a home, no commissions needed to be paid by you. Moving on, escrow fees. So I know we've got James on here. We've got, let's see, Judy's on here. I know you guys are outside of California. So I want to hear who you think pays for escrow fees. And Maureen and Renee, you guys can chime in too. I know you have an unfair advantage, but who pays for escrow fees? Who do you think pays for escrow fees? Type your answer in the comment box here. I'm going to let a couple little comments trickle in. I'm going to have a sip of water. But I want to know, who do you think pays for the escrow fees? What's your best guess? Let's hear it. Type your answer in the comment section there. That's okay. Thank you, Maureen. Anybody else have a guess? Who pays for escrow fees? And of course, like I said, some of you guys have an unfair advantage. You know the answers to the question here. But the reason I'm asking and the reason I'm pausing on this is because I don't think a lot of people have a clearly defined answer to that question. And I want people to stop and think about it for a minute. Yeah? Hey, Cheryl, how are you doing? Thanks for coming in and checking out the show today. So let's just talk a second about the escrow. So Escrow really coordinates all the documents related to the transaction as it pertains to title, as it pertains to mortgage, insurance, deposits, and all money. So an escrow, before we talk about who pays for the fees, I think it's important to understand, and this is probably a whole nother topic for another real estate refresh. But think of escrow as kind of that neutral third party, right? You got the buyers over here, you got the sellers over here. Each of them have their real estate agents, and escrow is kind of this neutral third party. But as far as expenses are concerned, they're split 50-50. Okay? And of course, there's some outlying circumstances where it may go one way or the other. And I want to emphasize this word, customarily, the escrow expense is split in the middle. So the buyers pay for their share and the sellers pay for their share. And that ends up being right down the middle, 50-50. Moving along, here's another one that I tend to get a lot of confusion on, and that's why I included in the list today. It seems really straightforward to those of us who we have our head in this real estate space every single day. But I find a lot of people don't understand who pays for the appraisal. So, and I'm glad you're learning a lot today, Judy. Thanks for the compliment. Renee says that Grace, our daughter who's watching, hello Grace, says that buyer and seller pay. Very good. You're a good student, Grace. So moving on though, appraisal. So who pays for the appraisal? Who pays for the appraisal? The seller is putting their home on the market at this price, and an appraiser has to verify that it's worth the price that you're willing to pay for it. So who pays for that? Who pays for the appraisal to justify the price that you're making on a home? Who pays for that? What's up, Neil? Good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping by. Who pays for the appraisal? And if you're just tuning in, we're talking about who pays for what expenses when you're buying or selling a home. Who pays for these expenses? And we've got a whole list of expenses here. We're just now on to the cost of the appraisal. So who pays for the appraisal? Anybody? The buyer. That's right, Cheryl. So when you're buying a home, the person that's getting financing, which is the person who's buying the home, that's the person who we see paying for the appraisal. Sure, there's different circumstances, and we could talk about that until we're blue in the face. But remember, customarily and normally, the buyer is the one that's paying for the appraisal. And by the way, that's something when you're buying a home, when you pay for the appraisal, you pay up front for that. And the reason I want to put an emphasis on it is if for some reason you're not able to go through with the transaction, whether something happens and the home falls out of escrow, or maybe the transaction is canceled, that's money out of your pocket. So, it's important to note, because most of the payments that happen, most of the money that changes hands, if you will, when you're buying and selling real estate, a lot of that doesn't happen until the sale closes and escrow closes. Like going back to our first expense, who pays commission? And we talked about that the commission is paid by the seller. That's not paid until the escrow closes. But when we're talking about the appraisal, the cost of the appraisal is paid up front. That's a check you have to write. So that's an important one to keep in mind. And appraisals these days, I mean, I don't even know. I mean, I'm sorry to say that I can't keep track of it, but I think the last time I checked, I mean, Maureen, what is the cost of an appraisal right now? Is it $550? It's gone way up. Yeah. Thanks, James. The cost of an appraisal has gone way up. So that's something you want to think about when you're buying a home. What money do you need, or would you be expected to spend immediately out of pocket? All right, so here's I got another one for you guys here. Moving on, our next expense that we're going to discuss is termite work. $600 to $750. Man, it's gotten expensive. James says $700. Yeah, I can't keep track of it. I really can't, and that's a topic for another real estate refresh. Anyways, appraisals, how do they work? I mean, we could go on and on with these topics, right? So termite work, guys. Who do you think pays for termite work? Who customarily, there's the key word. Customarily, who pays for the termite work? Type your guesses in the comments section. And I'd love to hear from you guys that are out of state. If you're outside of California, who customarily pays for that in your market, if at all? Some markets don't have to deal with termites. We're down here at the beach, and I mean, I don't think there's a house down here that doesn't have termites. So who pays for it? Okay, Cheryl's got her guess typed in there. Termite paid by seller. James says seller. Maureen, and by the way, guys, if you look in the comments section there, Maureen is our lead buyer specialist. So I let her chime in on these things because she knows, she looks at things from a different perspective than I do. I primarily represent everybody who is selling their home. Maureen works with all of our buyers. So seller. Dana says seller. James says seller. Cheryl says seller. Well, customarily, it is paid by the seller. And I want to put an emphasis on customarily, and here's why. Back in 2015 or 2014, they rewrote the residential purchase agreement in the state of California. And they took out an addendum that was always included with it. And the addendum was the wood destroying pest addendum. And when they took out the addendum, it took away the expectation that the seller was on the hook for the termite work. And the way it works now in California, if we're just talking about the contract, right, when you make an offer to buy a home, unless you specifically write it in there, the termite work is actually negotiable. So when you go to make a request for repairs further on in escrow, that's actually when you make a request for the seller to cover the cost of termite work. And let me tell you, that if that bill is big, like $2, $3, $4, $5 or more, and you look like the buyer who's asking the seller, like now you're asking them to make those repairs. Oh, in addition to other repairs that you might want, let me tell you, that's not usually well received. So we go through a process of having that conversation up front with the sellers, so then they understand from the beginning it is customary. It's a customary expense they can expect to be either asked to take care of, or in most cases, people like to take care of it before they even put their home on the market. It just makes for a better all-around transaction. Last but not least, the home warranty. So what is a home warranty? So let's just take a quick break. We'll give you a quick description of the home warranty. It covers, I like to think about it as it's a warranty that covers any system failures, maybe plumbing, maybe an appliance breaks, once the home is sold. So you're buying a home, you close escrow, and then all of a sudden the dishwasher breaks or the refrigerator stops working. You have a warranty that's paid for by who to cover those immediate problems. So who pays for the home warranty, guys? I want to hear, because we've got people, again, from all sorts of markets. Who pays for the home warranty? Customarily. Who's expected to pay for the home warranty? You guys know. Let's see what you think. I'm gonna look for here in the chat. I'm gonna read your comments here, but in your experience, who pays for the home warranty? And I don't care whether it's the seller or the buyer that you represent, or if you are the seller or the buyer, but I really would like to know who pays for the home warranty customarily. Okay? So we've got Maureen. Maureen says seller. Dana says seller. Cheryl says seller. That's right. The seller customarily is the one who pays for the expense of the home warranty. How much is that? That's a great question. A lot of these home warranties can be around $400, but if you start adding in things like, because there's a base coverage and then there's add-ons. So some of the add-ons are like air conditioning. Oh boy. Sorry about that, guys. My screensaver just went on my computer. I've never even seen that happen before. And you add on maybe pool equipment. You know, if you have a saltwater pool, there's more equipment. And the cost of the home warranty can go up. But it's usually around $600 is what I see. But that's it, guys. That's it for today. I try to keep these around 20 minutes. I'm at 20 minutes right now. Dana, Renee, James, Maureen, Dana, Cheryl. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in for Real Estate Refresh this week. In the interim, if you hear anybody who's talking about buying or selling a home, we would greatly appreciate your referrals. Until next week, have a great rest of the week, you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in to Real Estate Refresh.